Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our regularly scheduled board meeting. Today is Wednesday, August the 8th, 2007. This meeting is now in session. Ms. Seymour? I'm sorry. Vicki, could you lead us in prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, we ask you to please bless each person in this room and their families. Especially blessings, Father, for our board. Please guide them and help them make the best decisions for the benefit of our court. We thank you for your gifts of wisdom and courage, and we pray that you allow us to use these gifts justly and faithfully lead our community. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Mr. Campirano, would you lead us on the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next item.
Item number 2 is the public audience. Okay. We have a few people signed up. The first one, Arnold Cortez with TxDOT. Item number
5. Yeah. Okay.
Well, actually, I'll go ahead and do the presentation instead of Arnold, but
are we going to do that on that item?
We signed by mistake that.
That's part of item 5.
Okay.
Yes, sir. When we get to that item, we'll bring it up.
Yes.
We're just used to signing in.
Okay. Okay, then we have no one signed up to speak, so we'll go on to item number 3, receive court director's report.
Members of the commission and staff and members of the audience, thank you for being here today. I left a report on your thing, so I'll just kind of touch on a couple of points very briefly. One is that we did have a Port Bridge Committee meeting on the 1st of August, and the purpose of that meeting was to hear the progress from the consultant on the feasibility for work being done in Mexico. I had good representation from the committee members that were here. What we heard essentially was that the report's about 80% complete. The initial findings somewhat look encouraging when you begin to look at a vehicular traffic, but that report is supposed to be complete and finalized, and it will be brought back to the committee in 30 to 45 days, and the 45 days may be on the long side of it, but it will be presented to the committee, and then it will be presented to the board. Again, the focus of that particular study is to determine the impact of a feasibility of bridge on the Mexican side, and obviously the long-term objective on that would be to see if you can find a Mexican sponsor for the bridge. Now, it doesn't begin to look at what the impacts of doing a bridge, what may be on the U.S. side, but at least for what you engage the consultant in is to begin to look at that feasibility. And again, we should receive that report shortly. That's about 80% complete. We had a meeting with the stevedores, and we just kind of went over various issues. I've attached the agenda, some of the things that we talked about. But one of the things that we did talk about was just some clarification on our tariff rates for storage and penalty storage. So I just wanted to tell you that a letter is going out under my signature to customers, stevedores, and agents, and I've included a copy of that in your package, so you'll know that that is going out. The dredging of the channel continues. They're about 10% complete on that. To date, we've not had any reports of any problems, whether any delays associated with any vessels or even on the project itself. That project is scheduled to contract it through November, so all seems to be going well, and that'll be important for us. Last thing I'd like to just touch on is that I've got a couple of events for the commission to consider. The trade show in Monterrey is coming up for the 6th and the 7th. I think that Vicki has already contacted you, but that is a big event. That is a big show for the port, and it does call on major customers there. So if you can fit that into your schedule, it would be good to make that one. And then also want to point out that we've got the AAPA on North Fork, Virginia, coming up on the 30th through of the end of September. So if you have an interest in attending that, please look at your calendars in there, and we would encourage your participation in that as well. Included in my report were all the directors' reports as well, so I know we've got a lengthy agenda, so in case anybody has any questions, if not, that concludes my report.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Campiano, as you know, Dannenbaum was again in the news today. Have they performed any work under the settlement agreement since the settlement?
I have not seen nothing has come to my desk regarding Dannenbaum. I can't speak for the work that either the consultant is doing and Hector's not here if he's received anything, but I can tell you that from at least coming across my desk, I've not seen.
Does anybody know if Dannenbaum's performed since the settlement?
I know they've been asked to provide information that was necessary to support some of the work that the consultant is doing, and it's my understanding that they did provide that info.
But as far as
I've just not
finishing the
seen it.
engineering
No.
plan specifically,
Not to my knowledge. I can't speak
does
to
anybody
that.
have any contrary information? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Campiano.
You're welcome. Next item?
Okay, consent agenda items. Item number 4, consider and act on the following consent agenda items. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 18, 2007. B, approval of the following leases. Item 1, Rio Grande Shredding Company, LLC, new lease. 2, International Shipbreakers Limited, LLC, release. 3, Deep South Tex Terminal, LP, new lease. 4, Liquid Transporters, Inc., release. 5, X-Tex Investment Company, amendment. 6, George Carlos Gavito, new lease. 7, George Carlos Gavito, amendment. 8, Brownsville Public Utilities Board, new lease. 9, Brownsville Public Utilities Board, new lease. 10, Brownsville Public Utilities Board, new lease. 11, Esco Marine, Inc., amendment. 12, Valero Logistics Operation, LP, New Star Logistics, LP, consent.
Ask if you could pull item 1, 2, 9, and 10.
1, 2, 9, and 10?
Yes.
Also 8, sir. 8, 9, and 10.
Okay, 8, 9, and 10? Okay. And
Okay.
just very quickly, on actually items 1 and 2, we request that to be tabled. And on 8, 9, and 10, B make a comment on those.
Yes, sir. On 8, 9, and 10, Mr. Ruzek is out of town. We just got those leases out to PUB. Since they're over $25,000, the board needs to approve of those. They have a board meeting on Monday. They asked if the board would approve of those, subject to them coming back with no changes.
Board approval on their part.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table 1 and 2, approve the rest, and 8, 9, and 10, subject to.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 5, report on TxDOT FM 511 improvement project and potential wetland mitigation alternatives.
Mr. Lopez is here, so I'll handle that item. And then we also have our district director, Maria Jorge, and our district engineer, Arnold Cortez, here. And we've got a couple of items. One is the 511 update, and the other one is to talk a little bit about the East Loop project. So, if I may begin with the first item. As you know, the Navigation District has been working with TxDOT on the 511 project. The 511 project is in 2 phases. Phase 1 is scheduled to be let in September. I'd like to kind of just point this out, because you all are familiar with the project, but one of the things that came up recently is, and this is the map that shows the project, is that we had been talking about the right-of-way for the roadway, which is all of this here. But there's going to be right-of-way necessary for the drainage as well, and what you see in yellow here would be that part that pertains to Brownsville Navigation District property. All told, you're talking about right-of-way of approximately 137 acres. We recently met with TxDOT to talk about the drainage right-of-way, and there was a couple of things that we brought up. We've also met with the county folks, since they're handling a lot of the right-of-way negotiations. And one of the things that we talked about here is that this is an existing ditch. It's just unimproved. It's already there. But one of the things that we talked about is the way this is configured, we don't have access to our property. So what we have requested is to have right-of-way provided so we can have right-of-way off of 511 for our property. And nobody indicated that would be a problem. And secondly, when we talked to TxDOT about this here, is that if we could have a crossing here so we can go from here to here on our property across it, and they agreed to that as well. So part of what we would be pursuing going forward on this is to go ahead and get this finalized. Again, with requests for right-of-way off of 511 to our property, so we're not landlocked in effect. And then the other component of that is that when you look at Phase 1, the second component is Phase 2. Now, Phase 2 is this. And over here, there's going to be some wetlands that are going to have to be mitigated, approximately 27 acres. So what we've talked about in effect is working and developing a mitigation plan that TxDOT presented, which we reviewed and we agreed with, is to kind of use Loma Alta Lago as a potential mitigation site for that. But what we'd also like to do, and what's in your item, is not just a report, but also to say that when we begin to look at developing a mitigation plan for the impact of this property, which is approximately 27 acres, that we expand that and really work with TxDOT or their consultant, or if we have to have our own consultant, but really kind of come up with a mitigation plan for all of the area that's going to be impacted, because in the future, we may want to use some of this land, and we're going to have to mitigate some implications of wetlands. So rather than do just this piece now and then have to come back later and maybe do our piece, is that we can come up with a plan now and do it all up front. So one is we wanted to just report to you what is going on with this project and as it relates to the additional drainage and what we've requested, but more importantly is also to have an indication that we don't have a problem pursuing the mitigation strategy using Loma Alta Lago. And in addition to that, in developing that strategy, also include the rest of our property in that strategy so we can try to take advantage of that now as opposed to later. And if there are no questions on that, then we'll move on to East Avenue. And I think on East Avenue there, I'd like to call on Mr. Borges to make that presentation.
Just a real simple question. What stage are we in on it? By when do you think we would be able to start seeing the shovel?
Sure. Let me address that real quick. The Phase 1 portion, which Mr. Campiano referred to, which is essentially all the construction along 511 from the expressway all the way into the current intersection, that's going out for bid in September, next month. So you'll start seeing dirt turning, I guess, probably sometime in November. Project should last a couple of years. So Phase 1 is on go. We really appreciated the help that we got from the port in the right-of-way acquisition. Of course, a lot of the drainage that was referred to is also critical for that Phase 1, because that's where most of the drainage work is going to be done. So yeah, we're pushing for that September bid. We're looking at about a $45 to $50 million project for this Phase 1. Phase 2, which hinges on the mitigation of those wetlands, will come right after that. Essentially, as soon as we get the wetlands mitigated, get the port to sign off on the permit, then we're ready to go on that too. So I would anticipate that both Phase 1 and the new location, Phase 2, should be under construction. Phase 1 this September, Phase 2 probably next year sometime after we get the permit addressed. So yeah, that portion is moving real fast.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Let me cover then the portion of the East Loop. I guess I'll stand over here. That Mr. Camperano explained. We have been working with the city of Brownsville and the county over the past 2-3 years to develop the East Loop. I'm sure all of you are already familiar with that. That is a project that, and I think if you go to the third slide, so everybody can see it.
Third slide?
There you
right
go.
there.
No,
back, that one.
And I'll see if this works. Yeah. Here's the proposed East Loop project. This is the Veterans International Bridge, East Loop project. Will basically tie it right there at East Avenue, come east, south, all the way to Southmost Road. From that point, then, this is the portion that the city's working on. From that point, we would pick it up as the continuation of the East Loop and expand 1419. Then we would bring the new location up to the east in order to allow for the future expansion of the airport, which is being planned, and then come around and tie back into to the existing 511. So it's a new location around the airport, and then of course tie back into it. This provides an eastern corridor for the city of Brownsville and for the port. Good connectivity. Only problem with this project is that we don't have any funding. Minor. But we still have a solution. David Garcia is here from David is working with us, representing actually both the county and the Cameron County RMA. They are in the process of preparing a package that they're going to submit to our commission, requesting what we call a pass-through finance agreement. What that will allow us to do is the RMA will be able to go out for bonds to build this particular project in its entirety, and then we will pay back the debt over time based on the amount of traffic that uses the facility. It's a new financing mechanism that was put in place a couple of years ago by the legislature, so we want to take advantage of that. And so that's what the RMA is working on. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll get that application in. Now there's certain issues associated with batteries running low.
It's a 3-lane each way, Mario?
It's
four lanes?
4 lanes, 2 lane each way with a boulevard type.
Okay.
One key ingredient is that in order for that to be a pass-through, this portion of the East Loop, which is currently not on our state system, would have to come into the state system. Everything else, obviously, is on the state system, 511 is, but by realigning it, we would then turn this back to the city. But in order to take this on system, we have to give back an equivalent amount of mileage, and we're working with the city already on resolutions to give this portion back. This is a 511 that when it turns and goes on Duckberry and goes back to 1419, we will give that back to the city, as well as Elizabeth Street, which for some reason is still ours, which I'm not sure how or why. Elizabeth Street all the way back to Central.
That was U.S.
Yeah, originally, but I thought we had given it up already. I know. We just didn't think we still had it, but we still have it. So those are the 2 legs that we will give up in order to take this on. City's okay with that. We'll have all the resolutions in place and the minute orders in place. Now, with all that said, we've done public involvement in the past couple of years. We've had 2 public meetings for this particular route. Cities had at least 1 that I know, maybe more than that, for their portion. So we're ready to move on to the next step, which is the funding and the construction. So that will be coming now in discussions, and a key to all of this obviously is the Port of Brownsville, because you are one of the points of origin or destination here. Veterans International Bridge and the Expressway being the other one, coming right into the port. So we wanted to make sure that all y'all were in the loop on what we're doing with the RMA, with the county. If you all had any concerns, we would obviously want to hear them. We met with Mr. Campanano last week, and he brought up a very good idea that we want to pursue. And if you can go to the next slide.
Well, let me before
Okay,
you get there,
sure.
let me point something out. What precipitated that idea, and that is, there's 2 things. I understand that when this is done, this essentially would become the overweight truck corridor.
Right.
Because right now you're coming here, and then I guess it would be
Right,
there
right
and you're there.
Right.
And one of the things is I learned that and began to see that. The concern that I had was that if that's going to be the case, remember, we're talking already about the alternative 511 that's going to create a new entrance to the port coming on the north side. that this intersection had a potential for really being a big problem for us.
Where does it dump here at the port? Where exactly is the...
Well, it'll come in here.
But I mean, physically where are we talking about? Right here, right up front?
Yeah, right in front there. Or it's basically the 511 and 48.
Yeah, the overpass, the current overpass.
And so because what you would have to do is that you'd have to come in this way, come through here, go back around, and then come into the port. And that I can foresee being a big problem. And so that kind of resulted in, I'll let Mario present the idea, because part of what we want to do here is present that to you to see if, what you think about it, and if it merits actually looking to go forward and seeing whether this idea, can carry, and they have a much better idea how that can work than anything. I kind of just threw it out and presented it as I thought was a good idea.
Yeah,
see what happens.
And that was a really good brainstorming session we had. What you see here is essentially this is the East Loop portion that we were discussing. We are purchasing additional right-of-way at these locations here at the intersection with 3068 and Southmost, and then also at the intersection with Highway 4, and also at the intersection over here, I think this is 802.
802.
Okay, those three, we're purchasing sufficient right-of-way to construct overpasses in the very distant future. Obviously, it's not going to be a phase one or anything like that, but just so we can preserve the right-of-way. The idea that Eddie was referring to is basically coming here along Boca Chica Boulevard over to the east, and then use the corridor that has already been preserved by the Port of Brownsville for the International Bridge to come into the south end of the port, where, as we understand it, is where most of your heavy coils are
most of that bulk cargo is relegated to the south end of the channel, so
it provides a very good connectivity. It alleviates this portion of which is where most of the traffic is at right now. It still allows the connectivity that we need for regular vehicular traffic and other non-port traffic, just residents of the east side of Brownsville that can use 511 to get back to the expressway. But also, now it gives the overweight trucks a good incentive to come around here the back way. Very little traffic to deal with. Right. They should have a much easier time to get to the port. The other good advantage is that State Highway 4 is already a state highway, so therefore it's in pretty good shape up to a point where the curve starts, and from that point forward, as far as we need to go to hit that corridor, we will just have to reconstruct that. But the investment that will be needed will be probably minimal comparing to trying to build so this looks very doable for us. What I would recommend, and this is what David and I were looking at, is that the package that the RMA is preparing to the Commission includes this leg as a part of the pass-through. What that will do for us, now again, we will have to take this on the state system as a spur of some kind, where we would maintain the road. That's a big plus also for you all. As an initial step, we have enough mileage that we're giving up that the numbers actually work out fairly close, so it should be something workable. If for some reason the port wants to maintain ownership of this particular road, we can probably still work that out. We'll find another way to structure that pass-through deal. But at this point, we're not ready, obviously, to make any final decisions. This is just to throw out the idea, see if, from a consensus standpoint, are there any concerns with us proceeding with it and the RMA proceeding with it. But from all angles that we looked at it, it looks very, very doable, very feasible. Very few environmental issues, I think, to deal with there. So it looks like something we can move forward with the RMA. And that's really, like I said, this was a good informational workshop that we wanted just to present to the commissioners and see what you all thought and get your ideas.
It hasn't been presented to the RMA.
Right.
My understanding,
that's
if that is the next, it would be on the 16th of August. There's a couple of things, kind of just from a port perspective. One is, again, if that's going to be the overweight truck corridor, it keeps everything out of there. Secondly, you know, the trucks that are using the overweight are those trucks that are hauling steel, and you know, it begins to where we can concentrate those folks that are involved in that cargo kind of on the south end and keep them on that end. It provides another alternate egress and entrance into the port. I know that Georgia's going to have more toys to play with and more men and all that for another area to get into the port, but you know, I mean, that's going to be the future of something we're going to have to look at anyway. The other thing that it does is that it does provide, you know, our overweight truck corridor has an ending date of June 2009. This could provide a real impetus to extend that, because now you do have an alternate plan that is not contingent about whether we're going to get a bridge or not.
Right.
The other thing it does is that it allows for leveraging opportunities. I mean, there is a collection of fees that go with the overweight truck corridor, and that's something that Mario mentioned that does provide for some opportunity to leverage those funds. So, you know, and it could be a win-win all the way around. If there was ever going to be in the future and the progression of a bridge, you'd essentially have your entrance and you would be working of just simply going south with that port. But it does provide us at least you know, some opportunity at the present time to begin to plan on how we're going to deal with that secondary egress and ingress to the port.
Yeah.
It just seems like a win-win.
Sure.
And so we wanted to just to kind of make you aware of it and see. The devil obviously will be in the details, as Mario suggests, but it does look that this is something that could maybe move a lot faster than we're used to, and if there are issues that come up, the only way we're going to find them out is if we're serious about pursuing this concept.
And this flows to Los Tomates?
Yes. This would be again going right. Just all we're doing is tying back into what the plan is.
Yeah, the
and so
plan
it is that.
And it's a very, like I said, like I mentioned, it's an easy connection because it's utilizing existing infrastructure that we already have on Highway 4, which may need some improvement, but and then it utilizes the corridor that has already been preserved by the port.
And you know,
this hasn't been presented to, excuse me, this hasn't been presented to anybody.
Right.
And we're going to move forward with the application on the current route. And the reason why we wanted to bring this before you all is to run the alternate route by you all and see if that's something you all wanted to include.
It'd be very beneficial to the port. That'd keep the traffic out of.
It's going to be beneficial for all. I mean, this is a high growth area, and that's going to be, you know, my thoughts were that this was going to buy you a little bit of time, but before too long, that was going to be a lot of traffic. And if you throw in, you know, a lot of heavy trucks in there, it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, if you go out there now, you can start to see what's happening. A lot of residential development, you know, that sprawl is all heading west. And so, I mean, you know, this seems like it would be, you know, a really good alternative for us, but it didn't just serve our purposes. You know, it serves that corridor here, and it just served this purpose too, and because you are going to have a lot of congestion there in the future.
This will work.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it's a real good idea. My only concern would be just to keep it off system. Once you get it on system, I don't know if you'd be able to take it off. And the reasoning for that is that if the port bridge becomes a reality, then we would like to maintain some control over that.
Right. Well, like I mentioned, there's two ways we can go about this. The taking it on system is one way, but it would become a state spur, whatever. That's one way. If the decision is not to do that, to keep it off system, then we can still work with that. It may eliminate a couple of our funding mechanisms that may be available to us, but there's some others that we can look at. So we can work either way. Normally, for me, it's better not to take additional mileage on system because we have to maintain everything we have. So, of course, this will be a brand new road, well built, so shouldn't need a whole lot for a while. But if the port still wants to maintain ownership of that, then there's still something we can work out. We just have to look at other mechanisms. You know, the overweight truck is one possibility, and you know, other types.
I think it's I like it a lot. I think it has a lot of potential. I think we'll leave the details.
Yeah,
I think you all can, and then I think, you know, obviously our port director can give us his suggestion of how to go about it. But I like it.
We'll keep it separate from the project itself with the East Loop because like I mentioned, we've come along quite a ways in the last couple of years from a public involvement standpoint, and this has never been brought up, so we surely don't want to complicate that issue. So we'll treat it as an independent project, but it will still tie into the overall picture. And we just wanted conceptually to bring that up to y'all, and we'll work out all the details and see how we can finance all of this entire package.
That's the part I keep hearing about.
Yeah,
Somebody else
really.
can pay for this. So.
I heard that.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we can it's gonna, and in all honesty, the way we're gonna build the East Loop, by the way, David knows very well, it's gonna be a partnership. It's not gonna be any one entity, because when you have zero money to start with, well, it's gonna take everybody to pitch in. You're looking at about that, all those lines you see right there, you're looking at about $40–50 million worth of work. So it's not gonna get done very easily. But if we all put our heads together and try to come up with some innovative ways, we probably can come up with it.
We want to submit our application to Mario and to Texas Austin in the next 2 weeks, and hopefully be before the commission in October.
Yeah.
And at that time, it'd be great for some of y'all to come with us.
And we'll start talking I'll start talking to our administration to make sure that, again, conceptually, there's no barriers that they're looking at. I don't think so. I think, this is a very good plan. It's just going to be a matter of us working out the finances. So, that's pretty much the whole presentation.
Yeah, that's really it. Again, no definitive action on your part other than we're going to move forward with it. And then the only other thing on the 511 project is that we'll work out the issues on that overall right-of-way, including the drainage. And then again, we'll work with TxDOT on the mitigation plan using Lomas del Lago. And
on that, I think it's an ideal situation. At this point, we're fixing to turn our consultant, Luz MacTech, to develop a hydrologic study of what it would take on Loma Alta Lake to enhance that wetland. That would be a perfect opportunity for you all to piggyback on that, and then they can expand the acreage that they will be looking at. And that way, at the very least, you already have a plan in place. You don't have to mitigate it right now, but as your future development comes in, you'll have the plan already done, all the hydrologic data looked at. We'll probably just mitigate our portion actually in the field, but you'll have your plan to expand that to the rest of your acreage. So this is a good opportunity to jump in together on that one.
Good.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you. Let us know when you're going to submit that, and that way we can date somebody to go along.
Yeah, and at some point in the future, we'll need resolutions from the city, the county, and the court.
On behalf of the port, I think I can say safely that we thank you so much for all the work you've done for us. I know you've worked with us, and I thank you.
Sure. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Very good.
Item number
Number 6.
receive submission of ad valorem property tax calculations for the 2007 assessment. Debbie?
This is just an action item that needs to be taken. We had a workshop earlier this evening, and the calculations are in your backup.
For those that weren't here at the workshop, what we recommend, staff recommends, is the adoption of the rollback rate. And what you're looking at essentially is a rate that would be, let me get it here. We're talking at a rate of 5.3 cents, and I'll give you that exactly. 5.053609. That is lower than the effective tax rate of 0.054934. So that is what we would recommend that this commission consider adopting, is the rate of 0.053609. It is in keeping what has been the trend of this district since '93 in having a lower tax rate than the prior year.
On this item, all you were doing is accepting the calculation.
Right. First, the next item that we're taking action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 7, consider an action to set the ad valorem tax rate for the Brownsville Navigation District at .053609 per $100 valuation. This rate is comprised of a debt portion of .044766 per $100 valuation and a maintenance and operation portion of .008843 per $100 valuation. This rate is projected to produce an increase in tax revenues of $50,397 and is equal to the rollback rate of .053609 per $100 valuation and does not exceed the effective tax rate of .054934 per $100 valuation. This is a rate reduction of .0036 per $100 valuation, or 6.3%.
So basically, we're continuing with a decrease in taxes, right? They're not going...
Right.
The tax
Okay.
rate.
I'll make a motion to adopt,
The tax rate.
We have a motion on the table with Commissioner Mazo, seconded by Commissioner De Los Santos. All those in favor for item number 7?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 8, consider an action to declare abandoned cargoes at the Port of Brownsville docks and storage area surplus to the district and to authorize the salvage auction team to dispose of it.
Ray and Joe and I have talked about this cargo that is accumulating in little bits and pieces all over the port for quite a while. We finally got out there and took pictures of it. Gone through our records and tried to identify if we have been being paid storage on it. We submitted all of this information out to our stevedores. One lot was placed. It wasn't identified, and we got that worked out, and a piece of another lot has been placed. During our meeting yesterday with the stevedores, I asked them if they had any attachments to anything that we had, and no, they're good to go with it. They have until the end of August to claim it, and we did give them 30 days to look at it. We're asking you to go ahead and declare this a surplus community.
So these steel coils and all this, they've just been laid out there?
Yes.
They just abandoned it?
One of them, the longshoremen tell us he moved it into place about 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's been boarded up and been
standard up.
so they just leave them out there.
And some of it actually has an owner.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, too.
I saw that, it's got the names.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a
But
motion?
everything has a value, you know?
Oh, yeah.
We would surplus it, then we would obviously sell it for.
Luigi.
Second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Cristiano, seconded by Commissioner Mazo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 9, consider an action to review the investment policy and investment strategy and to adopt a resolution certifying that the investment policy and the investment strategy have been reviewed and have been adopted by the board.
It's required that you as a board review the investment policy on an annual basis and that you adopt a resolution to do so. I went through it. I haven't recommended any changes other than we changed the title of the port director was changed to general manager, CEO, and keeping the title. And if you all are comfortable with this, we would actually adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Ms. Duke, just wanted to ask you, on page 68, item number 5, delegation of investment authority. The investment officer should develop and maintain written administrative procedures for the operation of the investment program. Do we have these procedures in place?
Here in
They are?
the policy, yes.
Okay. And just wanted to comment on page 69 on the standards of care, the ethics and conflict of interest. Additional internal requisitions that implements additional limitations ultimately keeps board members and as well as staff members in conformance with it. So those are just additional policies that are in place aside from what has already been adopted, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 10, consider an action to amend the Port of Brownsville Tariff Number 6 to add a new item, Gulf Seaports Marine Terminal Conference.
This is a statement that we're adding to our tariff that we are a member of this conference. Probably should have been in here quite a few years ago. We've been a member of this conference since its inception in about 1988. This conference gives us the ability to meet as ports and discuss rates and to set rates. And we're asking you to go ahead and adopt this as a part of our tariff.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 11, consider an action to amend the Port of Brownsville Tariff Number 6, Item 347, Security Surcharge Vessels.
The conference has recommended that we as a port adopt an increase in the surcharge. Our current surcharge is 5%, which is what their original recommendation had been. Their recommendation is to go to 5.5%. And we're asking for your consideration of this. They are asking that if we are going to implement it, we implement it no earlier than October 1st, no later than January 1st. In our meeting with our stevedores, they've asked us to delay that implementation to January 1st if we decide to go. If we decide not to, then we will send a letter to the conference that we're taking independent action on this, by not.
Just so I understand, this is something that probably all ports in the Gulf are doing, and they just kind of want everybody in the same field of play, right?
Some are different, but most of them.
So mainly, everybody that we're, I shouldn't say competing with, but everybody we're competing with has the same charge.
In Mexico, they don't.
Well, yeah.
In Mexico, they don't.
In Mexico, they don't have to deal with that.
But by us charging this helps us defray our security costs.
Right.
Because this is revenue to Georgia's budget, so, and we charge it on the vessels that come in, the cargo that goes across the wharves, and so we get a little extra money to help with fixed assets.
You know, my only concern is, how does this, what are we talking about per ship? I mean, is this, it's not a lot?
Oh.
Okay.
When you look at what that increase would generate for $23,000, you're not talking
I'm just worried about the competitive edge against the ports in Mexico, and make sure that, we don't, do something for the right reason and it comes back to get us.
We haven't had any problems so far with it.
Okay, I'll make a motion for it.
Second.
Now, again, to be effective on January 1st,
January 1st.
2008.
Right.
We have a motion on the table for the item by Commissioner Cristiano, seconded by Commissioner De Los Santos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 12, consider an action to amend the Port of Brownsville Tariff Number 6, Item 277, Security Surcharge Cargo.
This is the companion charge, this is a charge on cargo. This will reduce a little bit of an independent action from what is recommended. They are recommending that on break bulk, their original rate had been at 10 cents per ton. We have taken independent action and kept it at 2.2 cents. The bulk of our cargo is break bulk, and we just left it that way. Their rates that were at 2.2 cents for 2.5. That's what we are proposing here. Containers, they have a $2.10 rate. We're proposing to go along with them at $2.30. Excuse me. Vehicles is our own rate of $5. Their recommended rate is $1. That's an independent action that we take. We're leaving that alone. And then our heavy lift and NOS, we're proposing just
Okay.
And again, effective January 1, 2008.
As well. Okay, do we have a motion? Okay. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 13, consider an action on assignments, negotiations, easements, subleases, and contracts in general. Item 1, Leela May Milford Trust, Gulmar, Inc., assignment.
Chairman, Commissioners, Leela May Trust was requesting to assign their lease to Gulmar, Inc. After looking at their purpose clause and Gulmar's purpose clause and other terms of the lease, the staff is recommending that instead of doing an assignment, that we do a new lease to Gulmar and do a release to Leela May. So I was asked to get authority to prepare a new lease to Gulmar, Inc. and a release to Leela May Milford Trust.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 2, Border Financial Services, Inc., authority to negotiate.
This is the company that wants to do the exchange house here. Initially, we had proposed here at the entrance. After looking at it, the congestion, the security, the trucks. We asked, Mr. Campirano met with the gentleman, went over with him, what other, options we had. He's come back and looked at the possibility of maybe getting a license to a mobile unit inside the port at the site, and a permanent structure across from Amfeld. He's asking for a permanent lease across from.
The lease would be across from Amphels, and he would
And have a mobile unit that, say, ESCO would permit their people across, when they're on their break or lunch at their parking lot, that this unit could cash their checks or, money orders or whatever else they,
On that particular mobile vendor, we haven't finalized that. I mean, their preference, and we actually went out there and met with them. They said, well, we really don't want to do this. What we would really like to do is we have a unit that we take to locations. We'd like to actually go to where our customers are and do that. And so that's kind of why we got off of this site, and we still have to work something out with them there. But they also have an interest in developing a permanent facility where they'll make some improvements. And so what you've got here on the Board of Financials is more of the lease for the improvements they want to make. This is not to approve any kind of a mobile vendor license as it applies to them. We'll continue to work with them on that.
So moved.
Second. Good deal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item
Next
number 3, U.S. Petroleum Depot, Inc., authority to negotiate.
U.S. Petroleum is needing to expand and is asking for additional tract of land for that. The map provided to you, that area would be west of the Chemical Road and south of Dallas Pit 1. And whatever area's in there, and until we survey it, we don't know what's in there. If they would like 10, if 5 is all we have, well, then 5 they'll take. So, again, until we survey it, we don't know how much area we've got available there. So I'm asking the board to give me authority to negotiate for that area with this company, so they can expand their operation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4, ESCO Marine, authority to negotiate.
This is an amendment to,
This is the rock dock.
yes. ESCO is requesting to lease approximately 1,000 feet of unimproved bank space as what is known as the rock dock. This is between oil dock 5 and 3. It would be a staging area for vessels. They would do their environmental remediation. And then they would be taken to their slip for cutting. ESCO is we have Mr. Jarvis here with ESCO, and they understand that any expenses that will be incurred for mooring or whatever expenses to set up that operation there would be at their expense. And I'm asking the board to give me authority to negotiate.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item
Next
number 11, consider an action on assignment of contract from Black & Veatch Special Projects Corp. to Response Management Associates, Inc. for the performance of Phase 2, 3, and 4 of the Port Master Plan.
Commissioners, this is, as you all know, the Brownsville Navigation District engages services of Black & Veatch Projects Corp. for the development of the master plan. A principal factor in the engagement of Black & Veatch was the expertise of Richard Tubner. Since the engagement of Black & Veatch is the primary contract for the Port Master Plan, Mr. Tubner has left the firm and joined Response Management Associates, Inc. in order to maintain the involvement of Mr. Tubner as the project manager for the Port Master Plan, it has been mutually agreed by Black & Veatch, RMA, and all of the subcontractors on the project to assign the contract to RMA for phases 2, 3, and 4. Essentially, RMA would replace Black & Veatch as the prime contractor on this project. With the exception of phase 1, which is being finalized, that would still be Black & Veatch. The assignment of the contract won't have an impact on the budget. Phase 1 of the master plan was for a total of $269,455. That remains with Black & Veatch. Phase 2, which we have budgeted so far to proceed on, is $175,760. As far as phase 3 and 4, should we choose to go on it, and then that would fall under that assignment. But at the present time, with all these changes, and we did have discussions, and Black & Veatch was very willing, actually, to assign that, recognizing that for what the port needs and for what Mr. Tubner brings to the table, that they do have an expertise void, and so they want to do what's right, and they said no problem. We recognize that's a problem for us, and we want the project to continue, so they did assign that to RMA.
He doesn't have any problem with that then?
We talked to them extensively. Daniel was on those calls. We made sure that we broached all those issues. We wanted to make sure that the subcontractors that are part of that team also were aware of it, didn't have any problems, and everybody, like I said, when I say mutually agreed, I mean this is probably the most mutually agreed kind of situation involving this that I've been involved in. There really wasn't any kind of I would say, for lack of a better word, in terms of animosity working through this, everybody was in agreement that was the best thing for the project. Obviously, we're concerned that we're going to get with a product that we want with the expertise that we signed on, but it doesn't change. The only thing it changes is that RMA will assume the prime contractor role. All of the insurance requirements, everything that's necessary for the contract will have to be met. I think Daniel has reviewed all of that. The way I worded it here, we would request that you approve this subject to any final review and approval by a district council, but it all has gone very, very well as it relates to making this transition.
In terms of the size of the entities, we're talking about Black & Veatch, who I believe is an international
That is correct, and that's why I was surprised that they didn't have that, but they apparently do not. Their strengths are in civil engineering, in electrical, in more of the mechanical and environmental, and not necessarily in the kinds of things that we've engaged associated with port operations. And so they were very quick to acquiesce and recognize that.
But they were the choice of the...
I understand.
They were the choice of the Master Plan Committee, and in turn this board. What is the... How many people are formed Response Management Associates, Inc.?
RMA, this particular engagement will be headed by the Houston office. Mr. Tubner will continue to be in Kansas, but they are a very reputable, they're not as large as Black & Veatch, but they have multiple offices throughout the country, and they also have, they're actually more expertise to support him for our needs than Black & Veatch has.
How large is Response Management Associates?
I can't tell you specifically how large they are in terms of what the total billing volume they do, but they are a corporate concern that has a pretty large operation in Houston. They're about 90 strong in Houston.
I remember, Donna, that when you were interim, that we expanded Black & Veatch's scope of responsibility to include some organizational study. Is that work been done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, will Response Management do that?
Let me address that. I actually, when I came on board and I told them not to proceed on that. And so we haven't done any work going towards that. One is that, when I looked at the scope, I wasn't really sure what the intent of that was going to be. And secondly, I really think that for, at least in sitting down and going over that, for what we need done to proceed with a master plan, I think those funds are better suited in other areas where we have some weaknesses in my concept. But they have not proceeded because I told them not to proceed.
Yeah, but I'm surprised by that news because of the board. I don't believe I was informed of that. And I know that the board voted unanimously to proceed with it. I think it was going to cost us $56,000, if I recall.
45 or 50,000 something. Well, it wasn't going to cost
It was
any
actually
addition, it
going to
was
be taken
carved
from...
out.
Right.
That's correct.
So we won't have the benefit of that work product.
Well, the scope was never finalized, and I basically told them to wait till I got my feet wet and figured out whether I thought that was a recommendation that I could come back to you and say proceed, and I haven't made that determination.
And I also remember that Black and Veatch was talking about going over bridge procedures. If you recall at one of their spring meetings this year, they were talking about going over the proper procedures for building a bridge. And is that work going to be done?
Well, what they did do were the traffic counts, and that was in the
Okay.
Phase 2, and they moved that to Phase 1 because we needed it done sooner. So that portion of it was done, and they were going to look at the bridge project in terms of the master plan, our entire master plan, and that still is...
Is that going to be done?
Yes.
No. Well, keep in mind that Black and Veatch isn't going away. They're just
Yeah.
not going to be the prime anymore.
And, excuse me, but Rich Tubner is basically going to, he's taking a portion of the contract out to be a project manager. So he's actually going to be working for the Port of Brownsville now, managing the project at no additional cost to the port through the existing contract. So...
Yeah, and Black and Veatch will remain on as a member of the team. In those areas where they have a role, they are going to continue to perform that. They're just simply not going to be the prime or the general on this particular engagement.
Just let us know in the future, Mr. Campiano, if you're going to, if work that we've voted to have performed is not going to be performed.
I will.
Thank you.
Sure.
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
15, consider an action to authorize staff to advertise for bids for automotive equipment.
In the capital budget for 2008, we had included replacing 5 of our pickups with pickups. As we looked at it, 3 of the vehicles are going to be assigned to the security department. And as we looked at it, it's a little more convenient for George to have a 4-door vehicle when he has to transport people that he's picked up, rather than trying to put everyone in front of a cab. So we're recommending that 3 of those vehicles be small sports utility vehicles, and 2 of the vehicles be the half-ton pickups that we normally purchase. And we're asking your authority to go ahead and accept bids for those. We have already started the process. We've got 2 vehicles that are down and out, and so if you give us the approval, we are ready to go at the next meeting. We'll be back with bids.
The security vehicles that are currently in place, they're trucks?
They are pickup trucks. They'll be handed down to the maintenance and the utility tomorrow.
And are these vehicles going to be like police-equipped vehicles, or, I mean, with the cage and everything?
We will equip, we're bidding out the vehicles.
The vehicles.
We get the vehicles and then we'll equip them. We have the overhead lights, they don't work, we'll get other overhead lights. We pretty good work, we work with DPS and some of the surplus and stuff. We'll get it done.
All right.
So good enough.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 16, consider an action to authorize the staff to advertise requests for bids for the district's employee health and life insurance program.
We do this annually. We try not to do this annually. If we would like to, we're searching for a consultant to review our program. We have things that we're leaving on the table. One of the things that we've been asked to look at is if we can get a 3-year bid so that we can have more consistency, and so we're going to start the process and we're asking for your authorization.
I'll make the motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Item number 17, adjourn into executive session.
We have...
Yeah, there are a couple of items for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
5:30, we adjourn for executive session.